Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the anatomy of the ultimate deception. We're going to unpack the deep, ancient connections between Iblis, dark magic, and the eschatological prophecies surrounding the Dajjal. It's a fascinating look at the unseen world.
So, I want you to consider a pretty profound question about truth and illusion. What if the world witnesses absolutely impossible feats? We're talking healing the sick, bringing rain to parched lands, even seemingly raising the dead. But they aren't acts of divine salvation at all. What if, instead, they're literally the ultimate test for humanity?
Let's start from the very beginning with Section 1, the unseen origins.
To really grasp this, we have to understand how the unseen world actually operates. It's built on a stark contrast in creation. While angels are made of pure light and humans are molded from heavy earth and clay, the jinn are entirely different. They are created from smokeless fire, and this fiery essence gives them incredible abilities, rapid movement, invisibility to the human eye, and, honestly, a terrifying potential for both immense good and profound evil.
Now, here's a crucial point. Iblis wasn't a fallen angel. He was actually a deeply devout jinn who had been elevated to worship right alongside the angels. But when he was commanded to bow to Adam, he flat out refused. His arrogance, which was deeply rooted in that fiery nature of his, convinced him he was superior to clay. And that one moment of rebellion sparked a cosmic promise to misguide humanity until the end of days.
Moving right along to Section 2, Iblis and dark magic.
Because Iblis couldn't just attack humans directly using divine power, he had to find a workaround. So he offered supernatural favors instead. This is seer, or dark magic, and the sources are clear that it's an explicitly forbidden transaction. A human seeks worldly power or wants to cause harm, and the jinn demand one massive thing in return. The human has to commit acts of disbelief and essentially worship them.
So you can see this whole thing is highly transactional. It actually started as a severe trial back in ancient Babylon with the angels Harut and Marut. The pact is incredibly dangerous but simple. Humans perform rituals worshiping the jinn execute malicious tasks, like, say, dividing a husband and wife, and in the end, the magician completely forfeits their soul.
Okay, let's look at how this scales up in Section 3, Building the Dajjal System.
You see, according to scholarly analysis, Dajjal isn't just a single person who's going to show up out of nowhere. He's the climax of an entire, vast system of psychological conditioning known as Dajjalia. Long before the false messiah ever steps onto the global stage, this framework is already priming humanity to accept him. It does this by attacking the family unit and pushing endless, empty materialism.
And it's wild because this perfectly illustrates how modern phenomena are viewed in this context. Everything from instantaneous digital media that shapes the thoughts of billions, to the breakdown of families, and even the normalization of occult symbols. These aren't seen as coincidental. They are deliberate mechanisms designed to weaken our spiritual resolve, leaving everyone completely vulnerable to this massive deception.
Which brings us to the physical manifestation in Section 4, the emergence of Dajjal.
The texts explicitly state that Dajjal is actually alive right now, but he's bound by 70 heavy chains on a mysterious hidden island, just waiting for the appointed time of his release. There's even a fascinating historical account of a ship blowing off course and landing on this very island. The crew supposedly conversed with this massive, chained beast of a man who eagerly asked them about the state of the outside world, just waiting for the signs that his chains would finally break.
Now, when he finally does emerge, he's not going to just demand worship right off the bat through fear. That wouldn't work. Instead, he follows a very calculated three-stage strategy to entrap the masses. He starts off by claiming to be a righteous messenger or leader, really appealing to people's desire for peace in a totally chaotic world. Then, as he gains followers, he consolidates worldly authority. Finally, once his power is absolute, he drops the facade entirely and demands to be worshipped as God.
And he's going to move across the earth with terrifying speed on a massive beast. His entire global reign happens in a bizarre, distorted timeline of just 40 days. His first day will stretch out to feel like an entire year, the second like a month, and the third like a week, before time eventually normalizes. During this incredibly fast 40-day sprint, he'll visit almost every single city on Earth. Literally, almost no one goes untested.
He is the ultimate master of illusion. He arrives offering what looks like abundant resources, a river of life-saving water, and a terrifying river of fire. But remember, his illusions invert reality. To accept what looks like his water is actually to accept spiritual death, while braving his fire reveals a cool, safe refuge.
Let's dive into the absolute crux of this in Section 5, Jinn and Fake Resurrections.
He's going to appear to command the sky to rain and literally resurrect the dead, but scholars note he does not actually hold the divine power of life and death. There's a horrific scene described where he literally cuts a Defiance believer in half, walks right between the pieces, and then commands the man to rise. The crowd sees a resurrected man, but what is actually happening behind the scenes?
Well, this is the absolute psychological horror at the core of the deception. Dajjal uses captive jinn to flawlessly impersonate dead loved ones, heavily exploiting human grief. Because jinn live for centuries and can shapeshift, they've literally watched your ancestors live and die. They know exactly how your deceased mother sounded, how she smiled, her private memories. Dajjal will deploy these jinn to appear to you as your loved ones, begging you to follow him. It's an emotional manipulation of the highest possible order.
So how do you even fight that? Let's look at Section 6, Shielding Against the Deception.
With such an overwhelming threat, the good news is the sources detail very specific spiritual tools for protection. Anyone with true faith will be given the spiritual vision to see right through these supernatural illusions. Between Dajjal's eyes, the Arabic letters for kafir, meaning disbeliever, will be clearly visible. Whether you're highly educated or completely illiterate, if your heart holds true faith, this warning sign will glow like a beacon, breaking the hypnotic spell of his miracles.
The texts advise specific actions to protect yourself. Spiritually, things like memorizing the verses of Surah Al-Kahf, and practically, building real media literacy and unplugging from manipulative digital feeds. Ultimately, Dajjal's reign of terror doesn't end by human hands, but with the dramatic descent of the true Messiah, Isa, shattering the illusion once and for all.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to really consider these intricate, ancient connections between the unseen world, dark magic, and the end times. If you saw the impossible happen on a live stream or standing right in your very own living room, would you have the spiritual grounding to recognize the ultimate deception?